Welcome to The Explainer. For the last 20 years, we've all heard the same story. The music industry is dying, right? But what if that's not the whole picture? Well, today we're going to dig into sources that tell a completely different story, one of a radical rebirth. And they use this really surprising analogy from biology to explain it all. So here's our roadmap. First up, we'll unpack this big idea that connects our own bodies to our playlists. Then we're going to hit the hard data that shows just how crazy the industry's transformation has been. After that, we'll explore how this new system actually works, and we'll even look at a deeper, more philosophical take before we wrap up with a huge question about the future. Okay, so let's get right into it. How on earth can biology explain the music business? Well, our sources put forward this kind of strange but really powerful idea that the health of the entire industry can be understood just like the health of our own bodies. And this is where the comparison just clicks. On one side, you have human health, right? It all starts in the cell, which needs good, clean nutrients to thrive. The sources argue the exact same thing is happening with music. Its new life begins in what they call the digital cell. Yep, your smartphone, which directly absorbs content straight from the artists. That's a pretty wild idea, right? But to really get it, you got to see the dramatic story the numbers tell. Because the industry didn't just kind of change, no, it completely collapsed and then was reborn as something totally new. I mean, just look at this timeline. It shows how incredibly fast this all happened. In basically one generation, we went from CDs being the absolute king to that short little era of digital downloads, and now to the total dominance of streaming. The very foundation of how we get our music just shifted right under our feet. And wow, the financial impact was just staggering. This was not a gentle slope down. It was a total free fall. CD revenue completely cratered, going from over $13 billion to less than $2 billion. And digital downloads, the thing that was supposed to be the future, they've dropped by over 90% from their peak. And boom, here's the new reality. Streaming isn't just a piece of the pie anymore. It is the pie. At 84% of all revenue, it's not just another format. It is the entire system. Okay, so if streaming is the whole system now, how does this all tie back to that biology analogy we started with? Let's take a look at how this new digital bloodstream actually works to deliver music in that cellular way. So this brings us to this key idea from our sources, the digital cell. The concept is that your phone isn't just a gadget to play songs. No. It's the final destination in a direct delivery system. Music isn't getting broadcast out to the masses anymore. It's being ingested personally, one-on-one, by each and every listener. So here's the flow, step by step. First, an artist creates what the analogy calls nutritious content. Then, the streaming platform like Spotify or Apple Music acts as the bloodstream, carrying that content. Not to a record store, not to a radio station, but directly to the listener's digital cell, their phone, for instant absorption. Okay, but it doesn't just stop there with the business model. One source, from a speech called From Cells to Soul, takes this whole analogy into a completely different space, a much deeper philosophical one. It makes the case that this big transformation is about way more than technology. It's about the very soul of our culture. This particular viewpoint, it really frames artists as something more than just content creators. It sees them as these spiritual cells of our society. They're like the basic fundamental units meant to create and spread a special kind of cultural and spiritual nourishment. Now, at the heart of this interpretation is a pretty deep theological idea. The speech suggests that the ultimate purpose of music, its highest calling, is to be a vehicle for expressing a divine heart, something that connects all of us back to a spiritual source. So look, the really crucial point here, according to this view, is that the new streaming model is so important because it lets artists completely bypass the old gatekeepers. And this direct connection, it argues, is a major shift that could help build what it calls a culture of heart. A culture where the true value of music is measured by how well it can uplift, heal, and bring people together. So what do we do with all this? We've got hard data showing a complete industry teardown and rebuild. We have this cool biological analogy to make sense of it, and we have a really deep philosophical vision for what it all could mean. It all seems to be pointing to one single conclusion. There's this one quote from the source material that just nails it. The story of the music business for the last 2 decades isn't a tragedy. It's not a story about death. It's a story of transformation, where this new, more direct, and way more personal system for art has literally grown from the ashes of the old one. And that leaves us, you and me, with this really big, fascinating question for the future. I mean, think about it. For the first time ever, the line between the artist and the listener is almost invisible. It's a direct connection. The bloodstream is in place. So the real question is, what kind of culture are we going to choose to build with it?